reasons to try punch needle. It's relaxing, it's very easy to learn, and it is the only socially acceptable form of stabbing. Ready to punch out your rage? Get a beginner kit with everything you need at theurbanacres.com.
I don't have any hobbies, actually. This isn't a hobby. This consumes my entire life. A hobby is something you do on the side. This is not a side project.
And if you don't want to dance anyway, give peace a chance. Let the fear you have fall away. I've got my eye on you. I've got my eye on you.
I was feeling a little ambitious, so I decided to make my first ever punch needle pillow. I headed over to Michael's to grab all these fun yarn colors along with a few other supplies. I went with this fun strawberry design, and then I just got to punch needling to make the front of my pillow. This is always the most satisfying part of the process. I just love how fun and relaxing it is to punch needle. Once I finished punch needling, I went ahead and cut it out, and then I placed it right sides together against this really cute heart fabric that I also found at Michael's. I clipped it all together so it would stay put, and then I started sewing. Don't forget to leave a little gap of space so we can flip it inside out and stuff our pillow. I'm still pretty new to sewing, but honestly I'm kind of impressed with how that turned out. I stuffed it nice and full, and now I'm just gonna sew together these final edges. There's room to improve, but it's not too bad for my first time.
I like to do this. This is fun. This is fun and I like to do it. I chose to do this all the time because I like it and it is fun.
Which side of a punch needle project is the front? Punch needle works by moving yarn through a needle to create flat stitches on the side you can see and loops on the side that you can't see. Traditionally, the side you'd want to display is the loopy side, so the back of your work as you're working on it. But there are ways to get creative. Take my bee kit, for example. In this project, I punched from the front and the back so that I could get some really fun texture and make it look like the bee was raised off of the fabric. And this is just one of the many ways that you can make every punch needle project your own. If you're ready to learn punch needle for yourself, head on over to theurbanacres.com to grab a beginner kit and use code TikTok for 15% off.
Serious and no rappers. Stay down the
I fucked up.
Jump scare.
I decided I would learn how to punch needle. I watched a couple videos online, no tutorials, just videos, and I thought I could do that. I can't. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't realize that this part is supposed to be the front, and the part that I was working on and focusing on so much was supposed to be the back. To be fair, I think I had kind of a dud punch needle because no matter what I was doing, the stitches wouldn't stay until I kind of held them with my fingers and made the loops myself. I think I just need to get a different punch needle, but it's a learning experience for me. I learned something, and that is that I will only show the back of this piece as the front.
And now I want to sit back and relax and enjoy my evening. when all of a sudden I hear this agitating, grating voice.
Can't resist the taste. It's like my favorite place. Gets me in the daze. Don't wanna leave this embrace. Oh yeah. Sweet and emulsify. It's like a love potion. Keeps me on cloud nine. Can't get enough. Keep 'em coming.
Hey y'all, watching me make some Hello Kitty rugs. So I started working on these 2 or 3 days ago, and this is where I'm at so far with them. I'm doing both at the same time, so whatever I complete on the top, I make sure that I do the same for the bottom. Then right here, I'm using my punchy needle to go through the rug one by one to poke through each strand of yarn, just to make sure that it's inserted into the fabric. And this is also like the majority of how I made all of my rugs. Then the wood frame that's behind me right here is the one that I recently made, but I had messed it up nutting in some wood tacks, and now my frame's all lopsided. But normally this process takes me about 1 or 2 weeks to get the rug finished, but this is how they turned out.
Can I teach you punch needle in 30 seconds? Start the clock. After you've threaded your punch needle, it's time to begin punching. You'll hold your needle just like a pencil with the open part facing the direction you want to go. Start by inserting your needle into the fabric, making sure it goes all the way down to the handle, and when you move to the next stitch, you keep your needle on the fabric. We want the loops the needle is making to be on the underside of our work. If you want to change directions, remember to rotate that needle so that the open part is facing where you want to go. You can use punch needle to make all sorts of projects, but my beginner kits teach you how to make this super cute little wall hanging, and you can shop all the options at theurbanacres.com.
To learn how to punch needle, look no further. I'm going to walk you through it step by step with my new punch needle kits. First step is just going to be to trace the design onto the fabric. If this is your first time using your punch needle, you're probably going to want to adjust the height. These are my preferred settings, but just keep in mind the longer the needle, the bigger your loops. Now we can use the yarn threader to start threading our yarn into the punch needle. Just stick your yarn through that little opening in the threader and then pull it all the way through the punch needle, and make sure to leave a little tail just to make it a little bit easier. Switching colors is super easy. All you have to do is cut the yarn, and then you can pull it right out of the punch needle, thread your next color, and just repeat all of those steps. Make sure you're punching in the direction of the little opening on the side of your punch needle. Once you're finished, you can take it out of the hoop, and then we're going to start cutting it out, and we're just going to leave a little bit of a border around the design. It's an optional step here to add some Elmer's glue to the back to make it more rigid, but we're going to skip right ahead to the hot glue. We're going to add some hot glue all the way around and just push down those edges. Now we're going to take our felt backing and we're just going to glue it straight down onto the felt and then cut it out one more time, and we have our first finished mug rug. Let me know what other questions you have, or if there's anything you want me to go more in depth on.
I had a few questions about what I do when I finish punch needling. So I cut the project out of the fabric. I leave about a 1/4 inch of fabric around the whole car coaster, and then I glue down the fabric to the back of the project with hot glue. So again, these are car coasters. They fit into your car cup holders, and I do sell the finished product on my website. And then the DIY kits, which we'll be restocking by October 11th, allow you to make a large coaster. And then I go ahead and I glue the car coaster to a piece of felt, and then I cut it out of the felt. I also add a branding tag to the back because I do sell these, but obviously that is optional. And there you have it, a little car coaster. How to punch needle with the Mina Karen. Begin by pulling the thread through the fabric until a small tail is visible on the back. Always make sure the end of your punch needle is facing the direction you are punching toward. If you need help threading, please see my other tutorial for a step-by-step. When punching, keep your needle close to the previous stitches to avoid gaps, and don't lift the needle higher than the fabric or your loops can become uneven. Make sure to give the thread slack. If the thread is too tight or gets caught, your stitches easily pull out. Ending a stitch, you hold your finger over the thread as you gently pull the needle out. Then you snip the thread, leaving a small tail. When changing colors, remove the thread from the needle and insert the new one. Be careful not to punch over existing loops to keep your design clean. I have beginner-friendly kits available on my Etsy. They're really informative and they come with everything that you need to get started. Happy punching!
You know what that is? It's not a coconut. It's 3D embroidery made out of silk and cotton threads. Threads, that's it. These are by the Artist Embroidery Co. This is needle punch embroidery. This is the back of it, and then when it turns around, it makes no sense. How does that become that? It's an avocado. So it's all just tiny threads. This is the artist showing us the thread. I don't know, 1 billion of those to make the coconut. I've showed this one before, and it's probably still is my favorite because that is a piece of toast. That is not embroidery. This one is also so good. Real strawberry, fake strawberry. It also does the wave. But look at that. That looks more real than the real strawberry. And one of the best parts, there are so many, but one of the best is to see the back of it. And then, excuse me? How? How is that? How? And then the artist does this game where they ask us which one's embroidered and which one's real. And honestly, I have no idea. No idea. The realism is so confusing. How is that line glistening right now? And then small little threads. How is that real? Look at how many different colors there are. And look how many times the thread has to change to create all that 3D effect and the texture. And I'm exhausted just watching this.
Lottie doesn't have many cute collars, so I made her one. To me, she seems like a very spring florals kind of dog, not only because she keeps eating them, and she's also very cute. So I decided to do a punch needle design, which I made myself, so it's not that beautiful. I'm not that familiar with punch needling, but I still think it turned out okay and at least gives the general vibe of spring flowers. I ironed some heavy-duty interfacing onto it because Lottie is not that gentle, and I also did glue the back of the punch needle. I heard that you don't have to do this, but for a dog collar, it seemed to make the most sense. The backing fabric is just normal cotton. We'll see how long that lasts. And then I made my own binding and hand bound it in cotton as well. Once the binding was on, I added the part that actually made this into a collar, which again, I did not do perfectly, but I think overall it looks okay. And finally, it was time to see if it would actually hold up to being on Lottie's neck. So far so good. It's a little bit too wide, so I probably could have made the initial punch needling narrower, but I think Lottie looks pretty cute, and dark green and pink are definitely her colors. This is a very different style than the bedazzled collars that Tilney, my older dog, has. But I just don't know if Lottie can pull off collars that have so much bling. And this I think she pulls off pretty well and looks pretty cute.
Now that you know how to thread your yarn, let me teach you how to punch a mud coaster. Always check the opening of your needle. The open part should always face the direction you want to punch your yarn into. On your first punch, pull out the excess yarn from the back of your loop. Then, you can start punching more until the end, but remember not to pull your needle so high. Just leave a small space in between the canvas and your needle. Okay, so, this is how you change the direction of your needle. As I've said earlier, the open part of the needle should always face the direction you're going. And this is the example of pulling the needle so high. The tendency of doing this is the yarn won't bite on your fabric. You can always start over the part where you made a mistake. Just pull the yarn from the bottom of the pen and you can punch again. This is the correct way of punching. When you're done or need to change color, turn the loop over, pull out the yarn and cut it. And now, you're done. See you on my next video.
I get asked these 2 punch needle questions all the time and they're so hard to answer on comments, so I'm just gonna show you. Okay, so the first one is how to thread the yarn, and it's actually kind of simple. You're gonna need one of these. This is a yarn threader, and then you see this little hole right here on the top of the punch needle. You're gonna wanna stick your yarn threader through that hole and then down inside the punch needle. Then just thread it all the way through to the top. Sometimes it'll come out this part like you see here. That's an easy fix. Just take off the end and loop it through. Make sure it's going through that bottom piece. Now we can take our yarn and just stick it through the threader. I like to just pull it through a little bit extra just to make sure it doesn't come out when I'm trying to thread it. Then just go back to the top of the punch needle where that little white piece is, and you can pull the threader all the way through the punch needle back through that little hole at the top. If it doesn't fit through that hole at the top, you need either a smaller yarn or a bigger punch needle. Then you can just pull back your yarn and start punch needling. The next thing is, what if I mess up? Punch needling is actually very forgiving, so you can literally just pull out the threads and scratch it, and it's like it never even happened. Let me know what other questions you have. I'm happy to help.